welcome. It was all the way back in 2001 when we were introduced to the mean, moody badass with the tragic past that is Max Payne. And needless to say, the game was a hit, both commercially and with the critics. So, as was expected, there was a sequel 2 years later, Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne. Again, a critical darling, very well received, but unfortunately not a humongous commercial success, which is a shame because it's really good. But 9 years later, Max Payne fans were rewarded with the subject of today's video, a game I consider not only the best in the Max Payne franchise, but one of the best third-person shooters on the 7th gen that you've probably missed. Max Payne 3. I should let you know that as per the other games, this is quite a linear affair, but as I've said many times in other videos, linear games are fun, bit of variety, and it is quite cutscene heavy. And the one downside is you can't skip a lot of these because, as is quite customary, they also used as loading screens. So when you try and skip it, you do get the still loading message. However, unless you're very familiar with this game and you already know the story, you don't want to miss those cutscenes because the story on this game is absolutely brilliant. It's very gritty, definitely not one for the youngsters out there, but it is so well written, probably as you would expect from a Rockstar game. The cutscenes are used to flush it out, and you will enjoy it. It's one of those games where you can find yourself wanting to keep playing even as it's getting later or you've got other things to do because you want to know what happens next in the story. It really is that good. So where do we find Max this time? Well, he's ditched New York and the leather jacket for a linen suit and the sunnier climes of Brazil, namely Sao Paulo. He is working private security and, in a direct quote from Max in the game, drinking for free while chaperoning rich kids. At least that's how easy he thought it would be. But how's he ended up here? Well, the good news is you do get a good couple of levels that are set back in New York, and yes, the leather jacket's back there as well, and you get to see exactly how Max ended up in his current circumstances. Speaking of things that are back, so is the trademark bullet time. One of the best things to come from the Max Payne games was the bullet time mechanic, often imitated, but never quite as good as it is in these games. It works well, as I'm sure you'll remember if you've played the previous games. So what trouble is the Max Payne trouble magnet attracting in this particular affair? Well, as he's minding his business, drinking himself away, working as the private security, the posh office where he happens to be with his employer is attacked by an as yet unknown group of people, heavily armed to the teeth. Fortunately, Max is there, and he's the man for the job for taking them out. But the big question, how did they get there and why? Why are they attacking and what's going on? Well, that's the key part of the story. The next part of the game, level 2 if you like, sends you to a nightclub. Now, the visuals in this game are stunning. Definitely some of the best on the 7th gen, in my humble opinion. I dare say they could go shoulder to shoulder with some of the 8th gen games as well, because it does look that good. And in this nightclub, that really sets up the rest of the story. As is typical with the majority of the levels, things happen and you end up having to fight off a load of bad guys in a hail of bullets. Always good fun. And the events at the end really do set you up. Now I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler free as possible, so I'm not going to go into detail about the story because I want you to play it and experience it because I really think you'll enjoy it. But how is the actual gameplay itself? Well, I think it's superb. Let's be honest. The 7th gen had plenty of third-person cover shooters. We weren't short of them. This just plays expertly. There really is simply nothing wrong. I didn't find any glitches, and I've played through this game probably 3 or 4 times now, maybe even 5 over the years. I can't think of a single glitch. It works smoothly, the shooting mechanics are precise. You can use aim assist if you wish, and you can have it on hard assist, soft assist or none. It's up to you how you enjoy playing your games. Different difficulty levels as well. If you've played it once already and you want to enjoy it another time, try the harder difficulties. They're definitely a challenge, but they're not unfairly difficult. I think the balance is absolutely spot on, actually. One of the biggest differences is there's less painkillers around for health, but you can still find some if you explore the levels, which you're going to want to do, because there are collectibles out there. Now, the first thing you'll notice is gun skins, basically golden guns. You find 3 parts of the golden gun, and then when you pick up that particular weapon, it's got a golden skin. I can't myself notice any difference in how it plays, if it does any more damage or anything, than just the standard, but it's a nice little thing. But the most enjoyable thing to hunt out are the clues. As I've mentioned a few times, the story's great and it's got some fantastic twists and turns. And if you find all the clues on the level, or even if you just find one clue actually, it just helps flush it out and it can help you get ahead of it. So you'll be playing one level and you'll remember a clue you found on a previous level, or maybe even the level before that, and it'll all make sense and you'll think, oh, I think I know what's going on here, and it just adds that extra little bit of inquisitiveness and just a little bit more enjoyment. A bit like watching a detective thriller on the telly when you're trying to figure out who did it, only a bit more detailed. Obviously games are longer than movies. As I've said, the game takes place mainly in Sao Paulo, but there's plenty of locations to enjoy, each rendered beautifully. I've already mentioned the nightclub, there's also a football stadium, sort of a back river swampy style area, which I particularly enjoy. It's probably the level I'm going to use to show you the gameplay, because I particularly enjoy playing it. New York, as I've mentioned, a posh yacht, Panama, and downtown Sao Paulo, which is where the end of the game takes place, or probably the back third. Again, rendered beautifully, you go through the mean back streets, you end up in some clubs, you end up in an airport, police station. They didn't skimp on this game. You can tell that a lot of effort went into it, and I do believe that it has ended up being so good because it's received some care. And let's face it, Rockstar are a good studio. They know one or two things about making a successful game. All in all, this represents everything I love about the 7th Gen. It's a fantastic game. I can't call it a hidden gem, it's a bit too well known being Max Payne, but I'd say it's a neglected game because just not enough people have played it, and I certainly don't hear much talk about it. The story is phenomenal, the gameplay is absolutely perfect. It pushes the 7th Gen consoles to the absolute max graphically, and it's cheap to pick up as well. You just can't go wrong with Max Payne 3. One of the best games to come from the 7th Gen, and one that you really should give a go to. But what do you think? Have you played this game before? Did you think it is absolutely phenomenal like I did? Or were you a bit more underwhelmed than that? Or have I convinced you to give it a go? If you've made it this far in the video and you want to press the like button, I'd really appreciate it. It helps out my tiny channel no end. And until the next video, I'll see you soon. Ta-da.